Hello.
Hello, Bob. How are you?
Hi.
Nice to see you, and thank you for offer this webinar. Thank
Oh,
you so much for this important.
you are more than welcome. Looks like everything is working. Sure. Let me. I cannot while others are sharing. Okay, I have to wait till you uh, give me permission.
Morning. Buenos días, Elena. Buenos días, Bob.
Good morning, everyone. Good evening.
Nice pictures, Bob.
Fond memories.
Yes. Let's see.
I look a little bit younger.
Just a little bit.
Bob,
Oh, yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
this America's morning.
Ah, good. Yes, it's bright and early. It's almost 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay,
Welcome, Professor Tang.
yeah, thank you. It's have 4 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, I think we got Bob and Maria Aurora there. That's good. How are you guys?
I'm
Fine, thank you.
Good. Anyway, those pictures are already published in the paper. I just typed the link to the paper in
Mm.
Oh, great.
applied to chemistry, and you can download that paper.
Oh, great. Very good.
I'll be mentioning that in the presentation as well.
That's good. Okay, we have 3 minutes there.
Well, we are on time.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you, Dr. Robert Finkelman and Maria Aurora Armienta, that she will present introducing Bob. Thank you all of you for joining us.
Well, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome everybody to this IMGA webinar. We are very glad and honored to present today's webinar, which will be given by Dr. Robert Finkelman, Bob. For the past 25 years, he has devoted his efforts to developing the field of medical geology. As we all know, he is one of the founders of the International Medical Geology Association. Bob has been invited to speak in more than 50 countries on these and other topics. He was chair of the International Association for Cosmochemistry and Geochemistry Working Group on Geochemistry and Health, member of the American Registry of Pathology Board of Scientific Directors, and past chair of the GSA's Geology and Health Division. Dr. Finkelman was awarded a U.S. State Department Embassy Science Fellowship for an assignment in South Africa. He is currently a research professor at the University of Texas at Dallas, United States. Well, welcome, Bob, and thank you very much for this participation.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure, an honor to present this webinar. If you can give me permission, I will put my slides up.
Yeah, Bob, you can share your screen at the bottom. There should be a green
Okay.
icon for you called share screen. Yeah,
Okay.
good. It works.
It
Yes.
worked. All
So
right.
you can change to the slide mode.
Okay, can you see?
Great.
All right.
Yes.
Again, thank you.
Yes, great.
Elena, Maria, Jiaoshang, thank you very much for this opportunity. This webinar is both a brief history of the discipline that we call medical geology and an acknowledgement of the critical role that Olle Selinus played in establishing medical geology as a globally recognized discipline, an accomplishment that few scientists have ever achieved. As Jiaoshang has already mentioned, I urge you to look at this tribute to Olle Selinus, which recently appeared in Applied Geochemistry. It provides a lot of information on the remarkable career of this individual, Olle Selinus. I'm only going to be touching on one aspect of his many accomplishments. So let me start by asking the question, when did medical geology begin? We'll start at the beginning, several 100 million years ago. The recognition of living organisms that the geologic material, that rocks and soils were essential to their health, began with mammals and birds and probably other animals recognizing the need for nutrients, and they would migrate to salt licks and to mineral licks to ingest these salts and these soils and the rocks, because they provided essential nutrients and in some instances were actually beneficial in addressing health problems such as upset stomachs or poisons that they might have ingested. This is a remarkable example of animals self-medicating. This is well documented. Elephants making a pilgrimage to a cave in Kenya where they dig out the soft rock in the cave, grind it and swallow it because it contains sodium, which is, of course, a vital ingredient in stimulating body defenses and essential element for their health. It is I believe, the only known example of an animal actually mining to get at mineral that's essential for their health. A question that I looked at in preparing for this webinar is how important is mud to the health of animals? Does clay help cure animal wounds? It's documented that some animals use mud as a sunscreen, and people have documented using clay for healing dog skin issues. Did they come to that realization by watching a dog or other animals using mud or clay on their own? Why do animals roll around in mud? Is it for therapeutic purposes? I think this is a worthwhile avenue for research. I could not find any specific discussions of animals intentionally using muds and clays for health benefits. All right, well, let's move on to humanoids. There was a site, or it is a site in Tanzania, where the Homo habilis, early humanoid, lived about 2 million years ago. The archaeologists, anthropologists that uncovered this site found a mound of white powder. They recognized that this white powder was not local. It had to be brought in from elsewhere. And they concluded that these pre-Homo sapiens were using this white powder, ground up mineral, for health purposes, to settle upset stomachs. And the reason they came to that conclusion is that we are still using that material today for that purpose. It's kaolinite, a common mineral that's had been used in a very popular medication called kaopectate. And it's known to be effective in settling upset stomachs. So humanoids were using geologic materials for their health 2 million years ago. All of the ancient civilizations, when they initially started writing, to recording, some of the earliest publications dealt with using geologic materials for a range of health purposes. As you can see, as far back as 5,000 years ago, early civilizations were talking about salt and asphalt and various minerals. Salt may very well have been the first mineral used for health purposes. It's widely used to preserve meats, prevent them from spoiling. And just very briefly looking at a few of these ancient civilizations. In China, 4,000 years ago, they were using gypsum, talc, cinnabar, hematite, halloysite to address a range of health issues. India, again, 4,000 years ago, they recorded the use of a wide range of geologic materials to address health issues. Native Americans, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, also had a complete list of naturally occurring medications, rocks, minerals, petroleum, to address health problems. The Mayas, the Incas, they all 1,000 years ago were using geologic materials, as well as plants, of course, to address a range of health problems. All of this knowledge was passed down through the generations to the current indigenous cultures in South America, North America, Africa, Asia. These indigenous people have the knowledge of what rocks, minerals, clays are useful in addressing a range of health problems. It is, again, an opportunity for medical geologists to work with these people to learn what materials are helpful and, most importantly, why and how they work. Unfortunately, there's been relatively little that has been done to capture this knowledge, and unfortunately, the indigenous peoples around the world are gradually disappearing, and along with them, this essential knowledge of medical geology. In Africa, throughout Africa, people have made mud pies. They eat kaolinite for a variety of purposes. For thousands of years, women who have given birth or have had their period have gone to these termite mounds that you see in the lower right and have used this red soil, ingested this red soil. There are people who believe that this was helpful in replenishing the iron that they lost. Now, coming forward, the more systematic approach in Greece, 2,000 years ago, terra sigillata, these pellets made out of clay, were prescribed for settling upset stomachs, neutralizing acids and poisons. If we move forward 1,000 years to Turkey, we see a somewhat more sophisticated terra sigillata, clay tablets. And as you can see on the right, the writing indicates the pharmacy, or the pharmacist that produced the tablet. The backside, I believe this says not covered by medical insurance, but I'm not sure. So 1,000 years ago, there was a sophisticated trade in using geologic materials for health purposes. Hot springs, balinology, evidence goes back 600,000 years that people were using hot springs almost certainly for therapeutic purposes. Again, this is a naturally occurring geologic material. Our colleague Kitso has published a small book on this issue. And these hot springs were used all over the world, in Asia, in Europe, in North America, in England, widely used for therapeutic purposes. Talisman and amulets. This is the belief that crystals and minerals have healing power, that primarily the crystals can be used to ward off certain diseases or even heal certain diseases. And in the past, this was more widely ascribed to than it is today. But books have been written. Here I have 2 pages from a book listing a range of minerals and indicating what health problems that mineral can help, either prevent or cure. And then we see additional material here. Now, of course, most of us are far more sophisticated, and we don't believe in the curing power of amulets. And but do we? Are we so much more sophisticated that we don't believe in this? I will show you a crystal that, when it's presented to a person today and for the past hundreds of years, to millions of people around the world, that this crystal resolves emotional problems, it resolves psychological problems, and it allows people to forget their physical problems. And no one has ever disputed this claim that this single crystal does all of that when presented to a person. Diamond. Women are very clever, much more clever than the men. They, from this ancient belief in talisman and amulets, have decided that the diamond is what they would prefer receiving rather than the quartz crystal. And at least temporarily, it certainly resolves any emotional, psychological problems, and puts physical health problems in the background. I used to say that medical geology is a new term, but not a new concern. And I talked about Otzi, the Tyrolean Iceman, 5,500 years ago, having soot in his lungs, having quartz and clays in his lungs, having arsenic in his tissues of his body. But is that term really new? Well, in 1954, a gentleman named Marney wrote, "Not enough study has been given to this phase of medical geology as a cause of the low iodine content of soils and waters in this area." So 70 years ago, that term was, medical geology was used. 1930 in Lisbon, there was an international congress on hydrology, climatology, and medical geology. So nearly 100 years ago, this term was used. 1904, Skinner wrote an article called "The Sketch of the Medical Geology of South Africa." So now we're back 120 years ago that this term was used. Smart, in 1883, writing about John Ruskin, his life and work by a wise medical geology. So now we're 140 years ago, the term medical geology was used. 1960, Peter Harstadt, relating the occurrence of cholera to regional geology, stated that Jackson and Lapham were certain that they had founded a new discipline, medical geology, which would attract future scientific investigations. Well, Jackson and Lapham were certainly correct that this new discipline would attract future scientific investigations. They were just way ahead of their times because they wrote that in 1849, nearly 200 years ago, before their prediction came true. So what was the beginning of medical geology? We have to go back to England, formal medical geology. We have to go back to England 400 years ago to pick up the trail. This is a list of medical scientists that were important geologists, have contributed to geology. And the geologists probably recognize a number of these names: Hutton, Wollaston, Mantell, Owen, Huxley. Some of these are major contributors to geology, but they all started out as physicians. And there are a couple of books written on the history of geology and medicine, and this early connection between these two disciplines. I put this little chart together a number of years ago, and it's a very general depiction of the evolution of the sciences. Natural science was recognized in the 1600s. By the 1700s, biological sciences and physical sciences were recognized. By the 1800s, medical science was established and chemistry was well established. 1900s, geoscience was a major scientific field, as was public health. But it wasn't until the 2000s that medical geology became a recognized field and brought these two arms of the natural science together. And the origins, of course, go back, as I pointed out, millions of years. So we are aware now of the links between geology and health go back at least 2 million years. Most ancient civilizations were aware of these links. Early geologists, often trained as medical sciences, as physicians. And in a moment, I'll talk about the resurgence of interest in what we now call medical geology and some of the mistakes that were made. And I just wanted to point out that we have evolved from finding out what caused or helped medical problems and where to find them, to why these materials work and how they work. There were several early attempts to organize a discipline that we now call medical geology. The Society for Environmental Geochemistry and Health, SEGH, was established in 1971 to provide a forum for scientists from various disciplines to work together to understand the interaction between geologic materials, geologic environment, and the health of plants, animals, and humans. The journal Environmental Geochemistry and Health was established about the same time. And that period of time, the 1960s and 70s into the early 80s, numerous other publications were produced when the concept faded. And I'll explain why I believe it faded. This is just a list of some of the more substantial publications on what we now call medical geology. These are compilations of papers that were produced by various organizations, the GSA, the USGS, on health, geology and health issues. And as I said, in the 60s, 70s, up until 1980, early 80s, there was this resurgence. Unfortunately, mistakes were made, and the interest faded. What were some of the early mistakes? One of the most important was this issue of relating selenium concentration to heart health in the state of Georgia. Geologists recognized, knew that there was a distinct fall line through Georgia where the geology, crystalline geology to the north, sedimentary geology to the south, selenium content of these regions were markedly different, as was the incidence of health problems.
I'm watching.
The geoscientists suggested that perhaps selenium was the contributing factor or cause or prevention of heart health. The medical community was obliged to follow up on this suggestion and spent several years and several $1 million investigating this relationship, and concluded that there was no cause and effect, that correlation between the selenium concentration and the incidence of heart health there was no cause and effect. And this soured the medical community on geology. Mac Ross, a good friend of mine at the USGS, came across a report by a physician in New York who said asbestos was deadly and should be removed from the United States. Mac was a specialist on asbestos-formed minerals, and he pointed out that, yes, the chrysotile asbestos was relatively safe. The asbestos minerals that derive from amphibole minerals, yes, indeed, were extremely dangerous and should be prevented from use in the United States, but chrysotile was relatively harmless. The physician took umbrage at Mac Ross's remarks. He complained to the American Medical Association, claiming that a geologist was criticizing his epidemiologist, whereas Mac was simply pointing out the differences in the mineralogy and the differences in their human response. My understanding is that the American Medical Association complained to several congressmen who called the director of the US Geological Survey and said, "You are geologists. You should not be working, commenting on, involved in health issues in any way." And for nearly 20 years, the research between geologic materials and human health at the USGS was suppressed. An unfortunate incident in Turkey. There were two very active medical geologists in Turkey, and they had contact with a very important Turkish politician. We spoke with the politician, and he agreed to support the concept of a medical geology center in Turkey. Unfortunately, our colleagues went a bit overboard. They then proposed a standalone building with 4 wings, one wing for analytical equipment, one wing for bringing scientists from other countries to give lectures and so forth. It was a multi-million-dollar proposal, and of course, it was far more expensive than the politician was willing or able to support, and it never materialized. But now there is a medical geology center in Africa, the Jose A. Centennial Medical Geology Center in Nigeria. And Jose and I made a big mistake. We were so excited about this concept that we felt bringing together the medical scientists at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology, where Jose worked, and the geoscientists at the USGS, where I worked, bringing them together would stimulate collaboration. It was a disaster. The medical scientists from the AFIP used medical terms that none of the geoscientists understood. The geoscientists used geologic terms, mineral terms that the medical scientists were unfamiliar with. The presenters were talking at each other, not to each other. Jose and I realized the problem. We subsequently organized a second session inviting the EPA, and we cautioned the speakers, dumb down your talks. Give your talk as if you were talking to management. Make it simple so they would understand. And that turned out to be a far more effective conference than the initial. 1990, Geology from Norway produced a trailblazing book on geomedicine. And there are a number of chapters in the book that are still very relevant today. But this was not the beginning of medical geology. 2004, Komatina produced the first book using the term medical geology. But this was not the beginning of modern medical geology. And then along came Olle. Now, Olle, besides all his scientific accomplishments, had a wicked sense of humor. And once a year in Sweden, people cross-dressed. And if you wanted to see Olle as dressed as a woman, this is what he looked like. But this is the Olle we all know and love. In 1996, the International Union of Geologic Sciences established a working group on medical geology led by Olle Selinus. In 2000, his working group formally adopted the name Medical Geology. At the 2004 International Geologic Congress in Italy, he chaired a committee that formally established the International Medical Geology Association. And Olle was a standard bearer for the sciences and obviously for medical geology. And he rubbed shoulders with people that we would never have the opportunity to meet with. Here's a picture of Olle with the King of Sweden. And he met diplomats and important people all over the world promoting the concept of medical geology. In 2000, I met Olle Selinus at the International Geologic Congress in Rio. I attended his presentation, very much impressed by what he was planning for medical geology. And I approached Olle after his presentation, and I told him that Jose Centeno and I have put together a short course. One of the objectives that Olle had set out for his medical geology program. I said we had given that course in the United States, in Puerto Rico, in several places in Mexico, and I thought that it was relevant to what he was trying to establish. And without hesitation, Olle Selinus invited Jose and me to attend his working group meeting in Zimbabwe. After we gave our short course, Olle approached us and said that the committee has voted to agree to adopt our short course as the short course to promote medical geology. And Olle and Jose and I have since given that short course in more than 50 countries around the world to promote this concept of medical geology. Olle also produced groundbreaking books on medical geology. In 2005, the award-winning book, 1, 2, 3, 4 awards, The Essentials of Medical Geology, and it was updated in 2010. Medical Geology, a Regional Synthesis, and the Practical Applications. Olle also wrote a book in Swedish on medical geology. But this was just the beginnings of what was to happen. The Medical Essentials was translated into Chinese and into Farsi, and it stimulated an enormous outpouring generation of medical geology books. And I've compiled the images of more than 40 books have now been produced on medical geology and related topics in Spanish, and a pamphlet produced specifically to introduce medical geology to young students, medical geology in mining in Africa, and so on and so forth. Medical geology issues in regions such as New Zealand and Ukraine, conference proceedings, medical geology focusing on specific issues in China, and so on and so forth. As I said, there have now been, in a relatively short period of time, more than 40 books focusing on geology and health. Organizations like the International Medical Geology Association, conferences, MedGeo, GeoMed conferences, student conferences, the European Network of GeoHealth Scientists, databases on medical geology, the Geology and Health Division of the Geologic Society of America, the GeoHealth section of the American Geophysical Union, and of course, the Society of Environmental Geochemistry and Health is still quite active. Conferences, the International Meeting of Geoscience, GeoHealth Scientists, a journal, a GeoHealth journal from the AGU, webinars from, this one is from Maria, and there are others. Please visit the IMGA website to see the variety of webinars that have been produced. And this one I'm particularly proud of, the GeoHealth publication that appears quarterly at the USGS that I started 20 years ago, just before I retired from the Geological Survey. Well, we've made tremendous advances, but there are still issues that need to be addressed by medical geology. And these include, and I'm sure there are others, the health impacts of global climate change. I think there are enormous opportunities for us in that area. The health impacts of natural disasters. I'm not talking about the physical problems, but what are the long-term consequences of volcanic eruptions, of earthquakes and other natural disasters? Urban medical geology. Most of our focus is on rural areas. Veterinary geology. How does the geologic environment impact the health of animals? Global dust and the interaction of microbes and minerals. Why do some minerals kill microbes, bacteria, virus, fungus, and yet other minerals actually host them? Another area of research that's needed. Medical geology and mental health. Very little has been done. Occupational health, though there is a fair amount of research on this. Occupational health issues caused by geologic materials may be the single largest occupational health problem there is. Millions of people in China are exposed, and of course around the world, to silicosis, and the mechanisms of interaction. How do the geologic materials interact in the body, either preventing health issues or causing health issues? We should be aware that much of our work, we focused on acute issues, the health issues that we can see, the keratosis, Bowen's disease, hyperpigmentation, dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, the selenium, the loss of hair, and so forth. These certainly are critical issues that are easily recognized, but typically the chronic issues are present at 10 times the occurrence of the acute issues. So how many millions of people are suffering from poor health because of exposure, but chronically health issues because of exposure to geologic materials or lack of exposure to geologic materials? Well, you know the origins of medical geology now. We need to build on what has come before us, and we need to emphasize success stories. The future of medical geology now is up to you. And bringing geology and public health together can result in a beautiful picture. And we all have Olle Selinus to thank for making this a reality. I thank you for your attention, and I will try to answer any questions that you might have.
Well,
Robert, I have one question.
thank you very much, Bob, for this excellent and interesting presentation. And yes, please comment and take the floor to say
Yes,
thank
sir.
you or some comments or questions to Bob.
I heard somebody had a question.
Yeah, I would like to have a question. I'm Ishfaq from Geological Survey of India.
Welcome.
Yes,
So,
please.
if we see this national geochemical program for India, or most of the countries are going to finish, but most of the developed world is still lagging behind in the geochemical mapping of surface sediments. So when we have a global data set like Google Earth, so that we can have all the elements, contours, special distribution of all the continents, then we can have some policies which can be used by the medical organizations globally as well as nationally to overcome the problem of health problems. So for this International Medical Geology Association doing some work that we should scale up, speed up the geochemical mapping of whole of the planet.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. This would be a tremendous benefit to society. Olle was involved with the mapping in Europe, and there is a number of publications, very comprehensive mapping throughout most of Europe. Certainly North America is well mapped. But as you say, many developing countries, this is lacking. And we need to promote this concept by pointing out the value it is to the health of people in these regions. And that is, in my opinion, one of the critical arguments that we have to make, and that that preventing health problems, and these maps certainly could be used for that purpose, will, in the long run, save enormous amounts of money. The reduction in healthcare, the increase in the workers' time to produce if they're not sidelined by illness. We have to make and put emphasis on the monies that would be saved by producing products such as you've suggested. So perhaps the organizations like the IMGA and SEGH and others can help stimulate efforts to encourage countries to map their surface material to prevent unnecessary health problems. Thank you for this.
There are countries which has almost finished their work, and some countries are lagging behind. The countries who have finished their help can be taken, maybe some MOUs, some collaborative work, so from surplus geologists from those countries who had worked extensively in the geochemical mapping with their expertise, if they're given some assignment for IUGS, then they can go to the developing world and work there and train them, help them to develop this. As soon as we are having this global data set in hand, more good it will be to have some policies. It is not only about the health, human health, if we see now food, toxicity of soil, so many other things, environmental hazards, So it is, I think, a multi-beneficial database if we are having in the hand. So that benefits are enormous, but it needs to be taken in maybe the IGC. There should be some sessions to make it aware to all the countries that you should do this geochemical mapping as soon as possible. And then IGC geochemical baseline, if they are coming to help them, train them, or give some human resource or some other technical, whatsoever support is required.
I agree with you 100%. There's an opportunity. The IGC is meeting in Korea later this year. I'd recommend to you that you develop a proposal, have it read at the IGC, submit it to the IMGA, SEG, and others.
But also the
Okay.
webinar is over.
Please, someone has opened his microphone. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Isaf and Bob.
Ishfaq.
Alekos wants to say something. Please, Alekos.
Thank you. Bob, thank you very much. It was an excellent presentation. And for Olle, he should be very proud. Something that everybody should know, that we had a working group of the Western European Geological Surveys, the forerunner of Forex, Forum of European Geological Surveys, and today the Eurogeo Surveys. And it was called Geological Information Related to the Environment. And there we started developing the ideas for Europe. And that's how Olle started to sort of see that there was a relation between medical geology and health, because we had a lot of health-related issues to discuss in this working group. And it was between 1984 and 1992. And we did a lot of work, but unfortunately the directors stopped the work of this working group for reasons unknown. Well, one of the things that we discussed and with Olle, because we're entering political issues, geology and health. And so they stopped the working group, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it did accomplish quite a bit.
Of course he did, of course. Of course.
And Alekos, if I you'll permit me, I would like to mention that you are organizing the student conference for Europe later this year. These have been very effective conferences in encouraging students to engage in medical geology, environmental health issues. And the next one will cover Europe. And do you have the dates for the conference?
I think the starting date is the 26th of November. And we're having a discussion next Tuesday.
Very good.
So we'll finalize everything, and everything will be uploaded. Now, Bob Garrett had a comment he just sent me that we should relate it to the International Geochemical Baseline Mapping. Of course, we'll do, because the geochemistry and health is very important, and we'll do it, Bob. Don't worry.
Great. Okay. And all the related organizations will, IMGA, the GeoHealth of AGU, SEGH, Geology and Health of the GSA and others will be sending out notices to inform you of when this conference will occur and how you can connect. There'll be no charges for attendees, for the students. There's no costs involved at all. So we encourage you to join us for the conference later this year. Any other questions? Comments?
Well, there are some comments in the chat
Oh.
by Emmanuel I don't know if you can see them, Bob.
Okay. How we can get, this question is, geologists are being called to help address diseases. My question is, how do we get our proposals supported for us to get real data to justify the source of the emerging disease? Again, I think we need to focus on success stories. It doesn't have to be our own, but to demonstrate that the approaches that we're proposing have been successful elsewhere and have resulted in benefits to the society, to the reduction of health problems, to increase productivity of the workers. This is what will catch the attention of the politicians. So I think that's the most effective approach that we can take. And obviously, if we collaborate with public health officials, medical community, that would make the proposals much stronger.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thanks, Bob, for the answer.
Okay. I don't know, Xiaoshen, do you want to say something?
Okay, I think we just I just stop sharing screen.
Okay.
I stop sharing that one. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, I think we get quite a lot of people here. If they want to see anything, I can see they. Jose is there.
Yeah.
Jose,
So,
Oh,
Jose,
hey,
please.
turn up.
there.
Well, there are three major guys. I mean, established in medical geology. So Olle, Bob, and Jose.
Yes.
But there are important people that came before us. And
Okay. Introduce to us.
Zhen Baoshan was
Okay.
the person who brought the medical geology problems to the attention of Jose and I. And I'm sure every one of us has someone who has been helpful to us, that has brought these issues to our attention. There are many, many, many people who have worked tirelessly before us. But certainly Olle, it was the person that brought it all together and established medical geology, as I said, as a globally recognized scientific discipline.
Well, luckily, I've taken quite a few photos of Olle when he was alive. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose quite a few for the paper. In fact, I have quite a few photos. So my suggestion to everybody, we try to take more photos if there's a chance.
Xiaoshan, hi, I'm sorry, this is Jose.
How are you, Jose?
Oh,
Hi,
hello, Jose.
You are there.
Hello, everyone.
See you.
I was unable to unmute myself. So
Okay.
this is just, technology. I'm not good with technology, so I'm sorry about that. But I'm so glad to see everyone here. Bob,
Hello.
fantastic presentation, Bob. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I want to point out that it was medical geology that brought Xiaosheng and I together. After when Jose and I returned from China, Guizhou, where we saw the arsenism and fluorosis, I put together a poster and hung it up outside my office at the USGS, showing the health problems of geologic material. To be honest, many of the geologists were upset. They didn't want to look at pictures of people with health problems, and they actually covered some of the pictures. One day, I'm returning to my office, and this young, handsome man is staring at these pictures, and it turned out to be Chao Sheng. He was
at that time.
But I want to
everyone.
also, I want to
Hello.
mention a couple of things. If I think that I was not able to catch all the questions, but I was paying attention to what Ishkak
Yes,
from
sir,
the
Ishfaq.
Geological Survey was saying. I congratulate you for the efforts that you are doing in India, by the way.
So first of all, sir, I would like to thank all of you. I'm feeling right now I am in the library with the senior people.
But
I'm
I
thinking
Hello, everyone.
lot
Can
of
you hear me?
wisdom, lot of
Yeah.
wisdom for me to learn from seniors.
Right, but I want to let you know that based on your questions, there is a significant work that has been done through the years in getting more of this mapping of geochemical environment into the use of the public health policies. So actually, there are countries right now that are working on that, and we are looking to extend that to many other countries. And the good thing about this is also Ishfaq, that there are institutions and organizations, government institutions and organizations like academies of sciences that are taking the research done by medical geologists to develop policy to protect public health. So that has been done at the moment. For example, for many, many years, our medical geologists in Taiwan have done wonderful work in understanding the levels of arsenic in drinking water and how to set up maximum contaminant levels that can protect public. There is no such thing, but always you have to look at levels that you can tolerate. The same thing in the US. The National Academy of Sciences and the EPA have used medical geologists' research to establish public health guidance and public health policies. So this has been done. The beauty of this is, as I mentioned, that there are institutions and organizations that are taking advantage of all these things that medical geologists are doing to protect the public. And that was based on many, many work that we have done. Olle, Bob, Prof have done a lot of work on hydrology. So this is going to continue. And I am really delighted to listen to questions like yours.
Sir, I would like to add one small thing. If we see this toxic emissions spreading from one place to another, they don't have borders. If the developed part is doing it, others are not doing, still we are in the threat. I think every one of us in the threat till last person is in the threat. So who has done it doesn't mean he has finished the job. Who is unable to do, we have to help them, teach them, train them, and because we have one planet, so everything we see now, microplastic, it is in the oceans, it in the Himalayas, it in the poles, the same as the toxic elements. So how we are safe? Nobody among us is safe, and this needs to be convinced that all the geological surveys, all the countries will come together and let we map the geochemistry of our planet as soon as possible, and let that data set go to the FAO, WHO, and they use our data for fertility, for toxins or medicines, and not health of we selfish humans only, but all the creatures on this planet, terrestrial as well as marine. So it should be that way, very sincerely, very seriously, all of the planet.
Exactly.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello.
yes,
Yes,
we can hear
yes,
you.
yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir, we're hearing.
Yeah, this is Theo. And now I want to thank Robert for that very inspiring talk. He has touched on several areas which even some of us would not have thought about. And this will help to capture support from the politicians and also potential collaborators. Now, in talking about support from politicians and other fringe collaborators, I have recently been concerned about diseases of unknown etiology. Each time I talk to the medical specialists, I say, what is the cause of this disease? They say they don't know. And I wrote a paper recently where I addressed this problem in the angle that we as medical geologists have a role to play in trying to broaden the diagnostic spectrum of these diseases. So when one speaker mentioned the problem of eliciting support from the politicians and from others players in the government circle, and Bob mentioned that one way we can do this is by hammering on our successes. I think also by making it clear to politicians and fringe collaborators that we have a role in broadening the diagnostic spectrum by looking at the influence of geo-environmental factors on diseases vis-a-vis helping to find some accurate diagnosis of these diseases of unknown etiology, of which there are several of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your interesting, important comment. There is one question about specialization, especially for master students. I think there are several universities and academies where students can prepare in this field. Please, Jose, tell us about this. You know, I know in Uruguay they are working on that.
Yes,
Yes, Jose.
yes, there are a couple of things, and thank you for that question. I think that that's very relevant to the growth of medical geology and to the capacity building among the groups and also among in different countries. There are many efforts today that are being developed. One of them, of course, you mentioned what Nelly is doing in Uruguay. They have already developed a program where they are linking toxicology with medical geology and environmental health. And that program is going very well. I encourage you to visit their website so you can see the curriculum that has been developed for students. There is more of a multidisciplinary approach as well. So you will see that kind of composition. But the one that is really very exciting at this right now is what is going on in Nigeria at the Nasarawa State University. There, our dear friend and colleague Kiksu, he has done together with the Nigerian medical geology chapter. They have done a wonderful advances on setting up a center of medical geology at that university, which will serve as a hub for the rest of the African continent. That's the goal, to serve as a hub for attracting students and researchers. The new advances of the center is that recently the Senate, the academic senate of the university, approved the implementation and development of degrees, both at the certificate program on medical geology, a bachelor degree on medical geology, a master degree on medical geology, and as well as a PhD degree on medical geology. So that is already approved by the university. and we are working on all what has to do with the faculty and all the facilities for the center, which already the university has assigned facilities as well for the development of the center. So the goal is to serve as a place where students and young researchers can come to that center for training and for acquiring a degree of medical geology, but at the same time is to be able to open similar sites or similar centers across the globe. So that is the goal of what we are trying to do with IMG, together with IMGA, working with IMGA, working with the university, and working with a new consortium that Bob and I and Jack Galdon put together, dealing with the intersection between occupational issues, medical geology, and environmental health, which is called the International Environmental and Health Sciences Consortium, in support of medical geology and IMGA. So these groups are working together to provide all these opportunities, and we are delighted to see the advances that we are having in universities like in Nasarawa State University.
Thank you very much, Jose. This is very
There one
important.
small point I would like to add. Toxins, we are focusing on more and more globally, but there are so many elements which are very deficient in our soils, deficient in our food, and there are also diseases because of that. So this is most of the time we are for granting this, not taking it into consideration. Trace elements which are missing in the rocks, soils, as well as in our food.
Xiaoshang, if I can make a suggestion that IMGA could provide a service to the community, we should compile a list of medical geology courses or environmental health courses that are available throughout the world. Students would be interested in knowing where they can take a course or where there is a professor that's doing research on medical geology issues. We started this 15 years ago, and of course that list is now far out of date. I think we need to restart that. And we have the Medical Geology Center as an example of where students can look to for training guidance in medical geology, environmental health.
Maria,
Good point. Thank you, Bob. Yeah.
Another comment on that.
Yes.
Is that I forgot to mention this. One of our chapters, IMGA chapters on medical geology from Spain, is working on. They have put together a program of online courses on medical geology, and Elena Jimenez Forcada, has been working really hard in getting these programs up and running. And these courses that they offer, I understand that are courses also that people can get credit, credit hours for those courses. So they are online courses, and if you are interested in that, you might want to visit the website of the IMGA Spain Medical Geology chapter.
Great. Thank you very much, Jose. It's important for Spanish people, Spanish-speaking people.
Yes, that's
yes.
correct. Yeah.
Great. Well, if there are no more questions, Johannesburg, Eduardo says that Hasina is working also in the University of Johannesburg in this aspect. Yes, we know Hasina. Very good, congratulations. And well, I don't know, I want to thank again Bob and all the participants. There was many people many colleagues from IMGA. That was wonderful and very interesting participations of everyone. So thank you very much for this webinar. And well, we invite you to the next. We will announce it through the IMGA website and email.
Okay.
And have a good day. A good time.
Thank you, Maria. I just want to say this seminar is recorded, so I will, when it's ready, I will send the link to Elena, and then she will distribute it through IMGA to IMGA membership. Okay.
Okay. If I may make a final comment, the discussion after the talk I felt was extremely valuable. Ishak's comments and the response of other people.
Thank you very much, sir.
And maybe we ought to do this again, not necessarily another webinar, but
I will be disturbing you through my emails frequently now.
Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion. So thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.